Welcome to Let's Talk Midlife Crisis. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Tracy. We're your go-to hosts for all things midlife, menopause, and moments of pure mayhem.
Today, our guest is Dr. Becky Whetstone. She is a marriage counselor and therapist and author of the book, I Think I Want Out.
Welcome. Welcome, Becky.
We're so
Thanks
excited
for
to have
having me, Tracy and Ashley. I'm so happy to be here. There's nothing I love more than talking about relationships.
Oh,
Seriously.
good. Because we need a relationship specialist. It's been a while since we've had one of those on the show. So we're excited to have you.
Yes. And I could listen to, where are you from? I love your accent.
I'm in Little Rock, Arkansas. I'm in Arkansas.
There you go. Arkansas.
Then Bill Clinton and a little bit different than the Beverly Hillbillies.
I love it. And for those of you that can't see, because we don't do video, she gives me major Reba McEntire vibes. Beautiful.
Oh, real? Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Never heard
Okay,
that?
cool. I'm all for it. Never. No one's ever said that.
Wow,
I'm
that's
serious.
shocking to me.
Wow.
Well, there's a first for everything.
Mm.
So tell us a little bit
Cannot say-
about your background and this book that you wrote.
Yeah, well, background, I was a late bloomer in general, but as a teenager, I loved and devoured advice columns. So I think my obsession with relationships started showing up pretty early because I would find them in every magazine I possibly could and read them and try to figure out what the experts were going to say. So I kind of set my sights on becoming an advice columnist. And my deal was I was going to succeed Ann Landers. That's what I told myself.
Okay.
And Dear Abby.
I was thinking Dear Abby
So
when you
I
said
went and
that.
got my degree in journalism. Yeah. Well, because that's what was in the paper back then.
Yeah.
There was Dear Abby and Ann Landers and Dr. Joyce Brothers.
Yeah, Dr.
And
Joyce.
then there was, in Ladies' Home Journal, they had Can This Marriage Be Saved?
Oh.
And that one was just, over the top for me.
Wow.
Okay.
So I got a degree in journalism. But when I was in journalism school, just go to a newspaper and do that. That you had to, go to a small town, get paid nothing, work your way up and do house fires and murders. And maybe when you're 50, they'll let you write a relationship column. And I said, well, then I'm not doing it. So I just went into sales and stuff after college. But I got married, housewife route for a while. We were out of purpose. And we went through a marriage crisis because my husband didn't behave himself. And so I was at my wit's end. And this is where I had my midlife crisis, y'all, because I'd been sacrificing for him. I had been conforming for him, giving up everything for him and got very little in return, which, as you know, is the recipe for a midlife crisis.
Mhm.
And so I just reached that point where I just said, that's it. And I sort of busted out of a cannon and said, I can't do this anymore. I'm out. So we went to a marriage therapist and said, can you help us? Because I don't know what I want to do, but I don't want to stay with him right now. And the marriage therapist didn't know how to help us. And so we had to end up managing all of that on our own. And of course, too fearful, frightened, just created a terrible mess with our marriage, and we ended up divorced. And of course, it's been like 35 years now, and I see how it's all played out with our kids and everything, and it's really, really sad. And it really bothered me that there was no one in marriage therapy that could help us. I was like, what the hell? Why couldn't they help us?
Mhm.
So I did, after my divorce, I was like determined to go get a job at the paper and write about relationships. So I was going to become a career woman. So I went to the paper. I literally bugged them for 2 years until they gave me a job and let me start writing about relationships. And it's like I beat their door down. Bang, bang, bang. I started off as a feature writer for 2 years, and then they finally gave me a column. And it was very popular. Wrote this column. So then people wanted me on their radio shows and their TV shows to talk about relationships. And I became kind of San Antonio's relationship guru. But then everybody'd go, well, you don't have credentials this woman is not even a therapist. Why should we even listen to her? And the therapy community in San Antonio was very mean, critical. So I said, you know what? To hell with all of you. I'm going to grad school.
Wow.
So I was going to get those credentials so I could shut everybody up. And I ended up going to grad school for 5 years
Oh my goodness.
and got my PhD and came out as Dr. Becky. And in that period of time, I researched marriage crisis and what could have been done to save our marriage. And there was so much incredible, powerful research. And I was just furious that marriage therapists didn't know about it. And then when I was in marriage therapy class, they never mentioned it. They never trained marriage therapists how to help couples who are on the brink or thinking about divorce. So when I got out of grad school, I just sort of decided that I was going to have to be the one that was going to write a book about it. And I was going to start creating a way to help couples in crisis. And so that's what I've been doing for 20 years. And then the book came out in February.
Okay.
So this is a culmination of a lot of, stuff, but that's my story in a nutshell.
Wow.
The
Wow.
midlife crisis propelled me into finding myself and finding my purpose kind of thing.
Okay.
Oh, we love to share those stories because, as you know, it's a very challenging time to go through, and it can be really difficult to find yourself through that.
Yeah.
It is, I think when you're looking at, I have a model of midlife crisis in my book. I created a graphic to show people, and it's sort of like, for my clients and for myself, the beginnings of it happen sometime usually between 28 and 32, because now your brain is fully formed and you're starting to question if like everything that your parents and the culture taught you is
Mhm.
how you want to be. It's like, wait a minute, I don't think I agree with my parents, or wait a minute, I don't think I agree with that religion over there. Can I be different? Can I be myself, or do I have to keep doing what everybody told me I should do? So I think people start wobbling a little bit, in the 28 to 32 period of time. And then the longer they don't adjust to being themselves instead of pleasing others, the longer they do that, then the more severe I think the midlife crisis is going to be down the road.
Mhm.
But I
Oh,
had my
absolutely.
midlife crisis when I was about 35 or 36.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow.
And my deal was, I don't know what I want to do, but I know that I don't want to be doing this. And
Mhm.
so when I went through the crisis, I went to a bunch of self-help, intense weekend seminars where they beat you up and hit you over the head with a hammer and make you figure out who you are and what you're about and what your purpose is. And so I came out of there kind of on steroids. It wasn't Tony Robbins, but it was something similar to that, where you just come out of there going, I'm Superwoman. I can do anything. And so
Right.
that really kind of set me on that right path where, I wasn't afraid anymore to assert myself. So it just blew me away. When you assert yourself, doors open up like, come on in, instead of, I didn't find that much resistance when I went around asking people to open doors. So it was crazy.
Okay.
So yeah, that's how it all happened.
And I don't know, the rate of divorce rate these days in our country and perhaps across the world, but definitely in our country, it's just astonishing. And I think that this is so refreshing, as you mentioned, because I've never really heard of that. You always hear of, couples going to couples counseling or therapy and things like that. But honestly, out of the people that I know directly, I think that the success rate is pretty low on that, unfortunately, after time. So this is just so refreshing to hear that you are embracing and helping couples with actions that can actually save their relationship.
I was going to say, I think too that a lot of people, ultimately give up because they don't have those resources. And like you said, when you went to therapy, they didn't know how to help you.
Right.
And so you do kind of just feel like defeated, like there's nothing I can do, And so you walk away.
And back then in 93, 92, 93, when this happened, there was no internet was just tell you how it was not common. It was just beginning. And so there was no Googling. There was no, you had to, whatever, you went to the bookstore and whatever was on the shelf at your bookstore is what you had available
Right.
to you, or you could go to the library or something. So I couldn't find any books or anything about marriage crisis. And of course, what I've learned since then is, marriage therapists are trained to try and help you with your marriage. And if you say, okay, we tried, now we've decided we want to divorce, then people leave therapy. They
Mhm.
leave. And then they go off into the ether to handle things themselves when they are about to go through one of life's most stressful, horrible experiences. And I'm asking my profession, the marriage and family therapy profession, why are we leaving these people in the lurch? We should be supporting them through their crisis and decision making and help lead them to the right decision for their family, and then support them and their children, through a reconciliation or a separation or an amicable divorce process, and see them all the way throughout the back till they're feeling better after
Mhm.
they've all adjusted at the end. So I'm trying to tell people out there to stay with your therapist through your divorce process, because you're going to need them,
Mhm.
and make sure and help you discern what is the best decision for you and your family. Now, the marriage crisis stuff that I do, there's some finesse and art to it, because many the nature of a marriage crisis is usually one person wants out, the other wants to save the marriage, and and the person that wants to save the marriage is chasing after their spouse, trying to pull them back into the marriage. And if they do that, it almost always ends in divorce. So, like, one of the things that's unique in my process is the the person who doesn't want to get a divorce has to stop chasing their spouse
Mhm.
immediately and leave them alone, because this whole process means their nervous systems are kicked up. They're in crazy mode. They cannot make wise decisions. And the decider who's thinking about leaving the marriage will never come out of it as long as their spouse is chasing after them. So I try to stabilize couples off the bat, get this chasing to stop, stabilize the couples, and get them to where we can have an adult conversation and assess and diagnose their marriage and see what we're working with.
Wow, that's so spot on, I believe, at least from my experiences,
Mhm.
right? So,
Well,
yeah.
it's cool because my book came out in February, and for the first time ever, I'm getting clients to come see me who have read my book, you know,
Right.
and they tell me, like, they think it was divinely sent, because the whole experience I'm describing is exactly what they're going through. And it just and if you and my book makes you not feel like you're confused and in the dark. My book says this is normal. This is what's going to happen next. This is what's going to happen next. So they feel like, okay, I'm not losing my mind. You know, well, it's like knowledge is power.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
You
And
know,
I
so
love the step-by-step guide. I think that that resonates very well with individuals, especially if you are in a strained relationship and whichever side that you're on, either side of that, right, of the coin there. But I think that a step-by-step instruction is, I don't know why no one thought of it before, honestly. Now that you're saying it, it seems to make complete sense.
to say, believe it or not, shock of shocks, a lot of therapists and marriage therapists are afraid of doing marriage therapy.
Okay.
It's you would not believe how many people are afraid of it because of the conflicts. In many, I even have a referee's T-shirt that I put on sometimes when the
Oh,
couples were getting real nasty, just to show them that, you know, go to your corners.
okay. I love that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it can be really heated. And a lot of people, don't want to do that. So that may be why people haven't done marriage crisis, because it's the ultimate conflict, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about the dust being kicked up and people are scared and they're angry, and so my job is to talk them down from that and get them down to where they're,
Right.
you know,
But
able to talk.
I didn't know there was a difference between marriage crisis counseling and marriage therapy, honestly. I never knew that there was a distinction and a difference there.
Well, yeah, it's just interesting that, if in marriage therapy school, they do tell us that you can be a divorce therapist too, but they don't teach you how in school. Some marriage and family therapists, they just help people through their divorce. Okay, but how do you do that? So, the truth is in my class of 10 people in the PhD program, I was probably the only one interested in marriage. There was another person interested in Parkinson's and caretaking,
Oh,
other people interested in child therapy, other people interested in elderly things. So that's the other thing, is just because you're going to a marriage therapist doesn't mean that they took an interest, in that area. And that's why I think it's so important for you to find a therapist whose interest is what you're going through.
Mhm.
You can go online, everybody, and find people that are doing podcasts and writing blogs about their passion subject. And that's who you need to go to. There's therapists that specialize in co parenting, some that specialize in custody issues, So, I highly recommend people go to specialists, because in grad school, they give you like about 250 or 300 academic level research books on all these different subjects, and we don't have time to read them all,
Mm.
So there's a lot that we should know that we don't know, because it's just so much to learn, so much to know.
right. Wow.
Yeah, it
And
can be very broad.
and for our listeners that perhaps would love to be able to come to you,
MarriageCrisisManager.com.
marriagecrisismanager.com. Awesome. And we will
Marriage
put that in our show notes. So,
Yes,
yeah.
marriagecrisismanager.com. And also, I write a blog on Medium, and you will find that under the Dr. Becky moniker. And you have to spell out Dr.
CTO.
DOCTOR. But I've written about 160 or 170 blogs there about everything to do with relationships that you could ever imagine. And I'm writing one more every week. So I'm trying to take all the information and wisdom from my long suffering life and put it in the blog, so that no matter what happens to me, I put that information out there, and there's no excuse for everybody. You will be healthy in relationships if you read my blog and do what I'm explaining to you there.
That's great. That's a great resource for a lot of information. So, I've heard about Medium. It's a really great
Yeah.
app.
Yeah.
It is a super, and y'all, if you hit the paywall, pay the $50 free.
Right, because you can only get so far. Yeah.
I mean, come on. And there's so many writers there who are truly outstanding kind of column writers,
Mhm.
opinion writers. It's just on every subject known to man. There's a woman there that all she does is write about affairs. And
Oh.
she's not a therapist, but she was the other woman in a relationship, and
Mm.
she got dumped by the husband eventually. And so, like me, with marriage crisis, it lit a fire in her belly, and she has interviewed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people who were in affairs. She probably knows more about it than any therapist, and she writes blogs about it, and she cultivates others who write about affairs and puts them all on her page. And I'm saying, like, if you're dealing with an affair, like, you're crazy if you're not on Medium reading this woman's library of information. By the way, her big key message is the married dudes never leave their spouse.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
that's one of her big themes. They never leave.
Wow. That's great. I'm gonna have to check that one out. That
Yeah.
sounds interesting.
It does
Oh,
sound
yeah. Her
interesting.
name her name is PD Reader.
Okay.
Okay.
The initials PD Reader.
Wow.
PD reader.
Wow. But I'm just so happy about you taking all of this initiative and going back to school for 5 years as well on top of it, and then sharing it with everyone. I feel like it's honestly what is really, really needed right now. I think that it's easier just to walk away, and so many people are doing that and, breaking up families.
I'm asking couples to think out of the box. I'm saying, it's hard to live in the house with one person for decades and decades, and so, like, maybe y'all need separate bedrooms. Maybe you need to create separate zones in the house so you can each have a lot of individual time. I recommend separate bedrooms and separate dressing rooms and separate bathrooms. And I've had couples that were in crisis and they were able to stay together because the other one moved across the street or moved next door.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
and so I'm saying there's so many creative solutions. And the other thing is you can, live apart but stay married also, but just see each other a couple times a week, and keep your family intact. There's so many creative options. And so it doesn't have to be just blissful marriage or divorce, because
Mhm.
many times a lot of people don't seem to realize that most people that are married over the whole lifespan, they white knuckle different periods in their marriage and barely make it,
Yeah.
and there is something called normal marital hatred, which is a phase, and you come out of it. And so, some people think if they've had a year or two of the downswing that they need to get a divorce. And I just want people to be, more thoughtful and realistic about what marriage is like and what it is. Now, if you're with somebody who's an addict or if you're just telling me you don't feel the fire anymore or something like that, I don't think that's necessarily a good enough reason to
Mm-mm.
break your family apart.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm trying to get people to grow up and not be so childish.
Yeah. Definitely.
I
Definitely.
mean, I can give everybody a big hint about that.
Okay.
It's be nice,
Yeah.
be kind, be respectful, control the energy that you bring to the conversations and to your partner, and and be able to communicate well. And to me, communication is a learned skill. It's a learned skill. So if you haven't been to a therapist to learn how to do it, and you probably don't know that much about it. I write a lot of blogs teaching people how to communicate. So there's that. That's one of my biggest frustrations. I see people trying to divorce over silly misunderstandings. It's ridiculous because they're a failure to communicate accurately, you know. And that's just a epidemic problem is people's inability to perceive what the other person is thinking or doing or saying accurately. It's a huge problem. So I thought what you were going to be asking me about was the 5 stages of a deteriorating marriage,
Uh,
because that was the moment in the library of St. Mary's University when I was studying for my dissertation that I found in a book, and my jaw fell on the ground, and I said, "Why doesn't anybody know about this?" Because there are 5 stages that a marriage goes through, and it's like cancer. Stage 1, 2, 3, 4, you're dead.
right. Okay.
And And so I'm wanting couples to be aware of the 5 stages of a deteriorating marriage so that they can get help like you would for cancer early on before the toxicity has spread. Most of us marriage therapists see people in stage 4 or 5.
Yeah.
I want them to come in by stage 2. Stage 1 is called it's called disillusionment. So you have become disillusioned with your marriage. You go, "Uh-oh, I think I'm unhappy." And then everybody says, "Well, I know marriages have ups and downs, so I'll just wait and see how it goes." Stage 2 is, "Wait a minute, this is serious. This is not going away. I'm still unhappy, and this could lead to divorce." And then they quickly decide, "No, no, 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 no. I'm not getting a divorce." Now, stage 2 is when everyone should go to their spouse and say, "I'm struggling in the marriage," and then go to a marriage therapist. You have to do this. You cannot do this alone. You would not go get your cancer treated by your mother or your friend or yourself. But that's what people do when their marriage is on the brink. They go gripe to their friends and their mother, and they try to handle it themselves. And it's like having monkeys try to fix your marriage. So go get some professional help. Now, if you don't get help, then you're going to hit stage 3. That's called detachment. And that's where you say, "I'm so miserable in this marriage, but I'm not getting a divorce. So I'm just going to start going back to school or getting a new hobby or have an affair or do something that takes me away from the marriage as much as possible." And if you still don't do anything at that point, then one day there's going to be a straw that breaks the camel's back where you say, "I can't take it anymore," and your marriage crisis will begin at that moment. Yeah.
Wow.
When they say, "I think I want out," or "I think I'm really," they wait till the very, 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 very end to speak out.
Right.
And I'm telling couples, man, you got to stop this. You got to stop this, man. As soon as you realize you're struggling, get help.
I've mentioned before, I see a therapist. I don't go with my partner, but I go by myself. And we've had conversations around my relationship, obviously. And she said to me at one point that she knows couples that go to therapy, there's nothing wrong in the relationship. They're just being proactive. They're saying, "I want to understand how to communicate better so that we're never at, stage 3 or 4 or 5." So, yeah, I'm with you. I think that it is
Right.
something that should be
She's right.
communicated. People need to understand to go, it's okay to go early if nothing is wrong yet.
Well, that's sort of like premarital counseling is, come in and teach us what we need to know and be aware of. And I love doing premarital counseling, but it's very rare for couples to come in for the heck of it. Very rare. I don't see that very much. It's usually, what I see is big problems.
Right. Right.
Big problem. Nature of human, that was another thing in the research that blew me away was one of the phrases in one of the research books was uncoupling begins with a secret. And the secret is you're unhappy in your marriage and you don't tell your spouse. And then it sits there and festers and festers and festers. And you go through those 5 stages and you never speak out. I've got somebody I'm working with right now that's been married over 30 years, kids in college, miserable. Like he's going, "I want a divorce so bad. I want a divorce so bad." Has he told his wife he's unhappy? No,
Right.
never, never. Has he told her what he needs or, no, never. And every week he comes back and says, "Well, I didn't talk to her this week." Of course you didn't. But there's just, and this is like a super successful man, like, Mr. CEO kind of guy, Mr. Power Man. And he didn't even have the courage to tell his wife how unhappy he is.
Jeez. And you would think
Wow.
that that's probably going on a lot more than you would think, right?
It's a human phenomenon.
Right.
It's a
Right.
human phenomenon.
Well,
And and the best thing he could do, I told him, you know what? She's probably going to her therapist saying the same thing. She's probably telling her therapist she wants to divorce you, and she hadn't had the nerve to tell you. And this would be a good movie scene.
Right.
yes, it would.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
it would. Gosh, well, thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Becky. It's just been such a pleasure. I know that there's so many of our listeners out there that can benefit from, what you're doing, our conversation with this show, but also in what you're doing. And if you'd like to reach out to Dr. Becky, all of the links to reach out to her will be in our show notes, as well as to your book that just came out in February. So congratulations on that. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Y'all take care.
Thank you.
Well, that wraps it up for today. Thanks for joining us on Let's Talk Midlife Crisis. We hope you got some laughs, a little inspiration, and maybe a few new ideas.
If you loved today's episode, hit that subscribe button so you'll never miss an episode. And hey, share the love. Send this episode to a friend who could use a good laugh and some midlife wisdom.
Connect with us on social media at Let's Talk Midlife Crisis and let us know what's on your mind. We love hearing from you.